Welcome to Better with Bikes podcast. I'm your host, Mark Joslin, and we're in the studio today with our friends from Anthill Films to talk about their latest work, Return to Earth. We'll put some names with voices. Colin Jones, say hello.
Hello, everyone.
All right, welcome. Matt Butterworth. Butterworth.
Yeah.
Butterworth.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Really good. Welcome. And we have a featured rider from the film, Jackson Goldstone.
What's up?
What's up, indeed. All right. So I enjoyed meeting you last night at the premiere in Madison, and I just want to first say thank you for making this film. It's just incredible. So we got together afterwards, and we tried to, in our words, say what really was it all about, and I'll see if we got close. So we said, it feels like part Planet Earth, part mountain bike film, part classic rock anthem with a really defined message. What led you to create it?
Well, I could take this one. I guess we've done 9 films, and where we began was a film that we felt was similar to what we wanted to do with Return to Earth. It's like a simpler, not so flashy. We came off doing Unreal, and Unreal had like a lot of, wow to it, and we wanted to do a simpler story that really connected to the basics of life, where you live in the moment and you tell cool stories that you have to be there to experience. And that was basically it. We just wanted to do something to really, really have that connection to the moment and to others and enjoy bikes, basically.
Well, I want to come back to some of the themes, but first let's talk about the places. You filmed in some amazing locations. First question is, was there one that was more challenging than all the others?
Well, I would say Argentina was the hardest, for sure. Like physically, it was a lot of work, and to bring some of the tools we wanted, it was so much easier in some of the other locations because of trucks and just different logistics. But to be in the spots we needed to be in that Patagonia mountain range, it was like a 2-hour hike every morning just to begin shooting. And yeah, so that would by far was the hardest, I would say.
And what was your process for choosing the locations in the first place?
Yeah. I mean, I guess the locations we usually come up with second, it seems like. Often we have a concept and an idea that we kind of want to carry out for a film segment, and then we'll usually come up with a few options on locations. So, we looked at South America first, and we kind of narrowed it down from there. And so in that example, you guys ended up in Argentina.
Yeah, like the concept of Return to Earth, we wanted to tell certain stories, and the narrative was like different things, like Reader by himself. Like for him being in the moment, he was like in Utah pushing his own limits, and that was where he really explores his time and his place on this earth. And then like Argentina was a great mix because it was a spot that we had a couple connections to. So that always, you don't want to force a trip, go to a place where you don't have people and things like that. So a few things really lined up, and it was such a stunning location, and all the riders were really excited to go there. And also it's somewhere we hadn't been in the past, which also dictates sometimes the locations we go to. So all those factors, and then the time of year too. Like we needed somewhere in South America because of the timing. It was their summer, and we always end up shooting our films in the winter when we get more time with the riders, things like that. So that was a big part. All those factors kind of shake out where we go.
Yeah, and I'd say like this film especially, like we had some amazing opportunities to go some beautiful places, and you see that in the film, but as a crew, we had an amazing year out there shooting for sure.
Well, you could tell those are bucket list places for a lot of people, and I could see many people taking notes there of places they wanted to go next. Let me ask you more about that great year of shooting, though. There's a great line: film, bike, eat, sleep.
Yeah, Hunter says that. Yeah, and he's, I don't know, a hero in many respects for a lot of people, and he has a way of summing things up sometimes simply, that I think that sentence he put together there was, encapsulated that whole trip, just fully escaping from life and just riding bikes, eating and sleeping. So, yeah.
So that must be a balancing act. That was the life every day, but you still had deadlines and you still needed to get things done. Talk about that.
Yeah, maybe I'll let CJ take on that. I actually had to miss that trip in particular. We were starting the edit on the film. Like CJ said, we were shooting, right through the winter. And this was last winter, so we had such a tight deadline to get the film done by June. So part of the crew went there, kind of a splinter crew, and a couple of us stayed back and started the edit on the film. So
yeah, like I guess Argentina really gave us the canvas for really being in the moment. Like it forces your hand in certain categories, like not being connected to the world and really having to, bind yourselves with each other. You really needed each other for help and for picking camp, getting water, getting food, hiking up in the mornings, and everything was such a together experience. So yeah, that was what we felt was it was an amazing experience.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the themes, and please talk a bit about the old man.
You know what? When we first thought of Return to Earth, there's been some old, really classic sports action films, whether it's like Endless Summer. There was a ski film, Sinners, when an old guy addresses. And it is something where, like, as you get older, you really shake out what is important in life. So we really wanted that type of impact to, like, have that really bring to life our concept. So the old man, what we had done is we had really interviewed a lot of elderly, like a lot of people that we felt had a lot of cool experiences, and we basically vetted and collected a lot of really amazing comments, and we actually wrote the narration, which was one of our main mandates, was to be really fitting to what the film was showing and what it's about, but we also wanted it to feel like just conversation. So we wrote it in a certain way, and we compiled a lot of elements that we had gathered from a lot of people's cool experiences, and then we went through a casting director to find the guy that we ended up shooting, and that was actually the last thing we shot, was the old guy in the boat. And it was cool to hear some people's feedback, because a lot of people felt it was him talking, but you actually never see him talk, because it wasn't actually him that had said it. So.
Nice. Really a compilation then of a lot of those interviews.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of great life advice embedded in that. Yeah. I think in Other Seeds, you really call out the idea of disconnecting, and especially as it relates to the devices and that side of it. And they'll talk more about that.
Say again?
Well, just the idea of disconnecting, getting out of our world of media and constant connection.
Yeah. I mean, in this day and age, you can't even barely go for a ride without someone pulling out their phone and checking a text or checking their Strava. Everything's tracked, everything's online and shared. And I guess we felt you really lose something in that. You can gain a lot with technology, but you also lose a lot in terms of like connection with your friends and just remembering moments. We deal with it all the time filming, but we always say, like, let's say we're shooting a cool event, you're shooting it, but you aren't experiencing it. So sometimes when you get lost behind that layer of like a phone or whatever it is, you're just distracting yourself from really enjoying whatever it is that's in front of you. So that was probably the biggest theme in the film that we felt pretty strongly about.
Yeah, like, I mean, I'm a little older than you, Butter, but I remember, like, and I really, like, cherish the times because when I was a kid, I would leave the house and I wouldn't have a phone, and your parents wouldn't know where you are until dinner time. And you had that really, you were in your own world, even 2 blocks from your house. And I feel that's really quite gone these days. But, like, if you make a few life choices, you can actually create that experience still, which I think is pretty vacant in this world. So I don't know, I really did like the concept, and I really believe in some of those passages that the old guy had said. I really thought they rang true, and it was neat seeing it on top of, like, the cool trips that we had done. And yeah, like, I just think it is something that people need to think about as we move forward with technology.
We've inspired people to do just that. I want to talk about the music. Great choices. How do you do that? Do you choose a song and match things to it, or do you watch the footage and say, this is what's needed to score that story? How do you come to put those together?
Well, I know one thing I wanted to say is like there's a few guys that aren't here right now that are a big part of all these processes, and Darren McCullough is like our lead editor, and he does have a really good relationship with the music supervisors, and he did head up that quite a bit. But the overarching theme, we wanted it to be classic, we wanted it to be timeless, because some of the thoughts and ideas we wanted to portray are I feel timeless. So we wanted that also to be complemented by the music, and that 70s older music that's really tested has lasted. We really felt that was a really big need, so we did a lot of searching. I mean, it was really tough. Music licensing is so challenging. You got to think way ahead of your edit, because you shape a thing, you make it so it's fitting. Like you need the segment and the music to really complement itself, but it takes like a month out before you know that you can actually use it. So it caused quite a crunch near the end, for sure.
Yeah, as an editor, I would say like some of the most stressful moments in edits is a last second music change. Can be absolutely one of the most challenging scenarios you can be left with. And when I'm sure Darren's our lead editor, and when he's dealing with some of these songs that are huge songs, and a lot of weight is put on the songs, especially in a bike film, last second you might have to change a song if you don't get a license. It's got to go through a lot of layers to actually make it to the end, and you need a lot of signatures for the song to go through. So it could be quite a challenge, especially with some of this classic rock stuff that we were looking at. Everyone knows these songs, and you hear it in the crowd at the shows. Do they have to pay for this stuff? How do they get this? And it is, a huge conscious effort by the whole crew to try and get this stuff cleared to use in the films, for sure.
I mean, one thing I would add is like we suggested a lot of tunes, and it would almost make them laugh, this music supervisors, because they're such high-priced items. And then like in advertising, a lot of those songs that we had chosen would be $500,000 to license, like if it was for a mayonnaise commercial or like things like that, which is like not the same as us, and we do feel fortunate that we're telling stories that are inside of more of an independent film. People don't think of it as much of advertising, which it isn't, because it's more of a story driven piece, so it gives us a little bit of an advantage that way. But one person at our first world premiere mentioned that they thought it was $1 million soundtrack budget. And it's not even close to that, but it's still, I mean, we invest a lot of our time and energy and funds into the right songs, because we know it's just that important for the overall piece.
Yeah. And you'll talk to any mountain biker, but you sometimes have a song, and anytime a person hears that song afterwards, they immediately think of a film segment. So it just shows how much power, having great music really affects the end product, I remember as a Grom watching films, and I'll hear music from 15 years ago, and I'm like, oh, that's from this segment from, Rome or whatever it is. Like, oh, there's that song, and you immediately get brought back to that stoked to go ride. So definitely pretty important music, for sure.
Yeah, they laughed when we put in the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
They were like, we've never been able to license a Beach Boys song, and it came through. So that was really cool.
Well, that's great. Wow, big part of the process.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
So there were some specific scenes that people wanted me to ask about. Crested Butte, opening the bottle. How many bottles did you go through there?
You know what? It wasn't first take, but it wasn't that hard, actually.
I think only one bottle, but I think it did take us 2 tries to get it.
All in the same bottle.
I mean, those boys
Impressive.
can put back beers anyways, so I'm sure they've had some practice in the past.
Okay. So correlation between ping pong and jumping off things.
Oh, man.
Is there a clear ping pong champion in the group?
Well, you saw him in the credits there.
Yeah, Justin Gilding, amazing trail builder, but he looks like he's so athletic. Like he's got the quads. I think he's a hockey player, but he looks like a PE teacher.
Yeah,
we're joking, but he's a good athlete.
Yeah.
Really good athlete, and he took it very seriously,
which was awesome to watch. I think we all had a lot of fun playing ping pong. over the couple shoots that we had, and the Loft Bike Park boys, and they're the ones who really started it all. So him versus Xander got pretty heated in the end there, and anyways, we were having a laugh watching it in the end there. You can see it in the end credits, but
Important skills.
yeah, very important, very highly regarded.
Well, we're going to shift a bit with that to being on the other side of the camera. So, Jackson, many of us met you because of this film. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Jackson. I'm 15 years old from Squamish, and these Anthill guys, they're from the same town as me, so I kind of know them, and I've seen them around, and I've loved their videos in the past. So it was a big honor to get to film with them, and it was pretty sick because Worcester's only a 45-minute drive, and we got to film there, so it was nice, close to home. And it was a super fun time filming back in September.
So most people at 15 are not in mountain bike films.
Yeah.
How did you find him?
Well, Jackson's he's a good local shredder, and part of it is like our business partners. They all have kids in the area too, and their age groups are similar to Jackson. They're a little younger, a couple of them, anyways. Actually, no, there's a couple older, a couple younger. But they've created such a little posse of cool rippers in that area, and it just made so much sense. And then I've known Jackson ever since your little run bike video.
That was a while ago.
Yeah, that was one of your biggest
instant classic.
That was 8 years ago. No, 9 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, he did
Just
a
felt
little
like forever.
edit.
Nice.
Yeah, it went viral.
Yeah, it went crazy. Like, it was supposed to be just like a small thing. It was just to show my grandma what I've been doing, and then and it went viral, crazy.
Nice.
Yeah. And in terms of finding these guys, like, they stand out in the bike park and on the trails. You see these guys riding, and they're 5 feet tall, 5 foot nothing or less, and they're boosting, over the heads of all the 20 and 30-year-olds. So, you notice them, for sure.
It's because they're having the most fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the whole point of riding.
That's the whole point of riding. So other than your own scenes, what are your favorite scenes from the movie?
Oh, man. It's all so good, but I would say the Reader segment in Big Water, Utah is probably a standout. And he's just on another level of riding, and it's pretty crazy to see.
What would you add to that? Favorites?
Oh, it's so hard for us to pick favorites because we put so much time and energy into each of them. But it's hard to argue with Jackson's there going with progression. It's always fun to watch riders push the limit of what you can do on a bike. One of my favorites too was the community segment. Was a lot of fun. We traveled around and met a lot of really cool people. We had the opportunity. We did like Moab, Lenzerheide in Switzerland. We went to Wales. That's pretty cool as a segment, an experience shooting. But what about you, CJ?
Yeah, I appreciate the community segment because it really added to my Aeroplan points.
Yeah.
But you know what I think my favorite was, which a lot of people told me that the kids segment was their favorite, and readers obviously, but my favorite, I think, was the fall colors. I really always loved that time of year. I love the fall, and then the riding in it I found was so fun to shoot.
Yeah.
And it was pretty magical shooting. Like, it was seriously a 2-week window where we were just rushing to get it done because not only are you only there for 2 weeks in terms of commitment from the riders and a whole bunch of stuff, but it truly did end. Like, the fall colors, the trees were empty by the time we left. So it's pretty neat to actually kind of work inside a 2-week time lapse and see the colors fall and really work different cool zones. And then the riding in the final piece I really like. Like, I love the trail bike ripping that those two style masters, Ryan Howard and Thomas Vanderham.
Yeah, legendary, just subtle bike control things that cyclists can really appreciate. And I love the high-speed cable cam stuff that we did there. 24 frames a second, full speed. And I think that one definitely makes you want to get out on your bike and ride. Yeah, fall colors was definitely a highlight for sure.
Some of the shots that people marvel at, you talked about drone operation before. How do you rehearse those? Do you actually put that out ahead and point the riders towards it, or are you just letting them do what they do and figuring out where you need to be?
That's right. Yeah, like it's the drone itself is such a modern filmmaking tool. It's so you can like take advantage of light like really quick, and you can be like basically anywhere around in the air shooting the right angle, which is such a nice modern advantage. And then in terms of shooting, like the action, you would just be able to. It's so quick with the drone, right? You can rehearse your own angle before the riders drop in. You can kind of make a quick game plan using radios and things. You can like maybe choreograph, and sometimes it does take a couple of tries, but yeah, it's something that you can really quite, especially with trail riding, you can see where the trail goes, and you basically have to burn a bit of the battery to get set and where your path is, and yeah, after that, yeah, it's just a matter of trial and error, and hopefully we they're usually longer shots, so the riders don't want to take a huge descent and not get the shot. So it's something that I really have to have organized in my head and think a few steps ahead to get those shots for sure.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, CJ is our resident drone operator at Anthill, and he's kind of mastered it over the years. So yeah, we have sometimes we call him Dr. Drones instead of Dr. Jones. So yeah, no, it's cool. The drone unlocks that, different angles that you don't normally see from the ground level, obviously. So I think that's part of the allure, is just it's so interesting to the eye. You get the bird up there, as we'd call it, and start opening up new angles and seeing things that you haven't seen before. So part of the process, I guess. Yeah.
Now, Jackson, I can only imagine when you're riding, you have a lot of things to think about. Were any of those things distracting?
I mean, the drone's a little loud sometimes, but I don't really notice it too much. With the helmet, it kind of noise cancels out a bit. But when I'm riding, I just try and focus on what I'm doing, not anything else that's going on. Or if I'm filming, I just try and focus on, just the jump I'm hitting and not the cameras or anything. And I just try and do the best that I can, so it makes it look good for what they do. Nice.
Did they coach you to try different lines or different ways of approaching things?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely suggest, like, if, like, I should hit like this or whatever, and it's a kind of a joint effort on what we're going to shoot and how we're going to shoot it, but it's, yeah, we both kind of talk about that, I guess, and decide.
I mentioned some riders are more coachable than others. Where do you put Jackson on that scale?
Well, Jackson and all the other kids are so excited, and the one thing I did notice actually from you guys riding was it was no problem getting you guys to do other takes. You would hit corners all day long, which is
yeah. Some of the older guys maybe aren't so excited to hike up for another one.
That's very apparent.
But Jackson's a vet anyways, I think, by filming years terms. Like you said, you've been shooting since that first run bike video.
Yeah, I guess so.
Certified vet, I'd say, by now.
Yeah, and in between, when they're setting up a shot, if they're setting up a long, like, whatever, cable cam, or if they're setting up some super sick shot, me and, like, the other kids in the film, we would just do laps of the bike park, and we were probably riding more than we were filming, which is pretty fun, just...
Yeah, we're setting up a shot, and you've done, like, 3 laps in the park,
Yeah.
and then you join us again.
And then we do it again.
Here, take the GoPro, get on the lift, and we'll be ready in an hour. So
just working so
Plus
hard.
you guys would get to our LCDs faster than us almost.
Yeah.
Watch the shots. You were so excited
Go
to see
back
the
and see the replay.
Yeah.
Well, I did come across, speaking of some of the other things you filmed, the In the Blink segment with your dad. And I thought that was awesome. And as a dad, I can appreciate that sometimes there's a ride or a trail that dad wants to do, and sometimes there's one the kids want to do. And it was fun to watch you two ride together and the different lines that you took. Yeah,
I mean, he's a little older, so it's you gotta take the more easier route because you don't want to get him hurt or anything because it's yeah. So he I guess takes the easier runs, but it's super fun to ride with him still. He's my dad. I love him, so yeah.
That's awesome. So if you think for a minute, Jackson, if I were to talk to friends, to sponsors, to filmmakers, what do you hope they say about you?
Oh, man, that's a hard question. I don't know. I just hope that they had a good time filming with me, and I guess they, I don't come off as a bad kid, because I think some kids think of that. I'm so lucky to have the opportunities to go so many places. People think I'm a spoiled brat, but I try not to come off that way, and that's like my main goal, like just not to do that. So I hope everyone